Welcome to the Supporters Fund, Ask an Investor. I'm your host, Jeffery Potvin, or JP. And let's please welcome Ahmed Hazem as our investor for today from Falak Startups. Welcome, Ahmed, or what we're going to be using today, which is your real name, Hazem. How are you, sir? Thank you for joining us.
Hey Jeff, how are you? Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. And actually, it's the other way around. My name is Ahmed Hazem, and I usually go by Hazem.
I love it. Hazem's a good name, and I'm sure that's a little bit easier for myself to repeat and auto-repeat. So I'll keep saying Hazem, but we're off to the races already, so I love it. And Hazem, you're calling in today from Egypt, correct?
Yes, from Cairo.
From Cairo. I love it. I love Cairo.
Where it's almost time to sleep.
That's true. I think it's probably 6 hours, so you're almost at 10:15 right now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I'm a big fan of Cairo. I was there about a month ago. So, I guess I'm letting the audience know too, because as I was doing podcasts, I probably should have talked a little bit more about every country that I was touching down on, but I really enjoyed and love the ecosystem that's going on right now and in across Africa, but mostly in what's going on in Egypt and Cairo. It's very exciting. So maybe what we'll do is the way we like to start the show off is we want to dive right into everything. So maybe, Hazem, you can give us a bit of a background on yourself, where you started all the way from your financial analyst days to the startup you were part of, and then, of course, where you've landed today and all the great things that you're up to. And then one thing about you that nobody would know.
All right, amazing. I think that's where I'm going to struggle with, but let's start and figure it out on the way. All right, so early days back in university, I went to the German university in Cairo, studied entrepreneurship and strategic management. Nobody actually knew what entrepreneurship was when I was studying it. I was the first class to graduate that. And while I was there, I started a little bit of an entrepreneurial experience with my friend, and we started one of the first e-commerce businesses in Egypt, actually. And that didn't go so well. So everyone went ahead and tried something else. I went ahead and learned about finance and economics, and became a financial analyst in a couple of companies. One of which worked in the energy sector, and then the building materials sector, and then I shifted to real estate. Worked in a couple of companies, real estate, all into the financial and investment and strategic planning functions of these companies. Learned a lot of things. Learned a lot of models to extend this and help founders think the way big corporates think, and utilize these frameworks and these models into their businesses. And that's what I'm doing today. Like, I get a chance now at Falak Startups to pretend like I'm a founder in all these companies that we work with. So I get this satisfaction as well, and try to help them with all the knowledge I have accumulated across the different sectors and the different functions that I've worked in those past years. Yeah, you're still waiting for something that nobody knows, right? Yeah, I had hoped you'd forgot about that. I don't know. I really hate bell peppers. Maybe that's that's something that.
Say that again. You dislike, what's the word?
Yeah, bell peppers.
Bell peppers. Is that because they're too hot? I thought Egyptians love hot.
No, I like the hot. I like the hot ones. Like I like the red hot chili peppers, both the real peppers and the band.
Yeah.
But I don't like the normal ones.
Oh, okay, that's all right. So can you tell if it's blended in with a good hot sauce? Can you pick those out and be like, no, I'm out of this, no good?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, that's all right, man. That's impressive. Well, I can say on my side, I'm a huge hot sauce fan. At any given moment, I have hot sauce, probably 6 to 10 jars of it somewhere, if not a stockpile of it all. But I love hot sauce and everything. I think hot sauce just is amazing. No matter what, I got to try it. I've had the one that's probably the craziest, and you'll have to try this. It's something called the bomb. And Oh my God, it was on the Hot Sauce TV show. It was the third hottest one ever. And I literally had to keep trying this little dabs in like a bowl. One dab, bowl, two dabs, bowl, three dabs. And that's how I had to grow on this stuff because it was so hot that I would start crying. My mouth was on fire and I just had to work my way into it. I finished half a jar and I felt like a superhero. And this took me like probably 3 months. So you can imagine what it takes to do this all the time with hot sauce. You got to really get inclined in the market and really enjoy it and try it on everything until you get used to that real spicy picante sauce that builds up on it. So I won't beat that up any longer, but man, is hot sauce.
No, that's all right. Maybe I think you should come to Egypt back in November. There's a huge conference that happens every year there. That's called Techni, and it happens in Alexandria, not in Cairo. I'm not sure if you heard of it. So hopefully when you come in November, I'll take you somewhere. And yeah, I know you like it all because they serve everything that's hot as hell. So
I love it.
I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
It sounds like it's going to happen because I'll be going from Web Summit directly to Egypt for the 4th. So my goal is to try and make this all happen and coordinate this all. So fingers crossed we can make it work.
Amazing.
So we're going to kind of take a step back because I think there's a lot of great things that you kind of shared there. And there's a few other things that I've learned and read and podcasts and all this great stuff about what you've done. But the one thing that really kind of stands out, of course, well, two things is the finance. And then the second one is the fact that you've been a founder and that you've actually worked through and built a company. And you spent a few years doing that. So maybe the first thing we can talk about is diving into what your experience was in building a company, especially back in the early onset of the internet and in the world of in Egypt as well, because every country would have been a little bit different when the internet started to kind of take off. So maybe share a little bit of what that experience was like. And you said people came in and tried different things, but you kind of looked at this as not being a success. And I personally would look at this as being a huge success because I manage success a little bit differently when it comes to working with founders and with investors, is that you've got a lot of valuable information that you've built up regardless of the payout, but you did a lot of great things. So maybe we can start with maybe describe a bit more about what the business was about and what you learned in that early onset of building this company.
Well, the business was a simple e-commerce business where we sold a bunch of electronics online. It was really challenging because that like we started really early. So that's the key takeaway of the thing, because sometimes you'd have a good team, you have a good product, you have a good product market fit, you have everything that you need, but you're too early to the market. Like people wouldn't back in the day, buying something online was not something that common in Egypt at least. And yeah, to me that was the key takeaway. The other key takeaway also was to know and to understand when to give up, because that's a question that really pops up a lot of the time. People sometimes take it as a challenge or they wouldn't want to quit, but I think it's a key lesson to know when it's not working, or if it's that early and you can't keep pushing until it becomes a thing, or until you can teach the market and do this whole learning process. Like if you have the resources, then well, sure, yeah, go for it. But you need to gauge that. You need to manage your resources really well, and like no, if it's too early, then we give it another shot. Maybe a couple of years later, when the infrastructure is there, when the culture is really going to accept it. So as they say, culture would eat a strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? So that's something that you wouldn't want to go head to head with.
When you're not only early to market, but gauging when it's time to move away from a product, fail a company, or pivot, I think there's always this fear or stigma behind that. And can you say that learning this or knowing when you did this, how much of that was built off the principles that you learned in the financial sector? Because you've been a financial analyst, business analyst. Do those things really help you better understand the numbers, how the business works? So that kind of helped you better understand where your forward projections are going, and to kind of say, look, this isn't working. We got to pivot or change or do something because we're really falling under the gun here. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I do think that this carries a lot of weight, and maybe this is what founders don't have. And this is something that, again, another piece to your tool belt that you're bringing to the game here.
Jeff, it was the other way around. Like having this experience teach me how to become a better financial analyst and a business analyst, because it was the other way around. I did this while I was in the university, like last year in university. So yeah, it was the other way around. So I had to figure out this toolkit and how to gauge the business and how to understand when to stop and how to really identify if it's working or not, and like do this stress analysis and everything. And I had to do it beforehand. And it's yani to your question, it's even having that it is the other way around. But yeah, that this experience teach me that. So I became a little bit of a different breed of a financial analyst or a business analyst, because I had this experience. So I took everything from the perspective of an entrepreneur, even when I was working in corporates. So that gave me a different flavor, if you will, when it came to the way of thinking. I wasn't just thinking by the book and the way that is dictated by the playbooks of corporate analysis. So yeah, that's to my luck, of course. That was I think I got lucky by having this experience before that, and that's how it played out anyway.
Well, I'm going to say that's brilliant, because then if you take the reverse side of that, then you're probably sitting in, once you failed the business, realized that it just was too advanced, too quick, people weren't ready for it, decided to fail it, went back into the corporate world to get some more learnings. You were probably in there still trying to figure out, how did I fail this? Why did I fail this? And then as you started to learn more on the finance side, you started to put models together, then you probably had that aha moment 2 or 3 years later, and we're like, man, if I would have just done this, maybe I could have pivoted at this time. Now you solve that problem, and now you kind of keep moving forward in looking at that next business or how you analyze another business, because you lived through it, but at the same time, you probably didn't have the same tool belt as you do today. So you start to reanalyze where you could have done better or where you went wrong.
Yes, and that's basically what I do with the startups that we work with right now. So they are the ones that are getting the benefit out of this. And as I said, I get to pretend to be one of their founding teams, which is a great pleasure.
That's awesome. So throughout this kind of journey over the last 10 years of working in and out of these financial platforms, working with early stage to late stage companies, is there a couple of things that really stood out in your mind and that you really kind of embraced and said, you know what, here's a process, here's what you need to do if you're a founder, follow these 5 steps when it comes to the finance side or business side? Or is that too broad stroke and you kind of have to get way more granular? But is there a couple of things that you would share that you learned being on the other side, which was analyzing companies instead of at the time making investments? Because today it's obviously different. You're investing versus analyzing. What were some of the tricks that you kind of came up with that really supported today's methodologies of how you're investing?
Well, how you're investing is where it gets tricky, but the way these things or the frameworks, if you will, all those models that you use for to help out those founders get more business or grow exponentially, that's a little less tricky, if you will. But when it comes to investment, yeah, the way I always say it, although I wouldn't be that politically correct to say it, but I personally would never know. And the way I look at it is it's a numbers game, right? So you try to weed out anything that you know for sure that is not going to work. Like you've seen this before, and you've seen people try at it, or you see certain patterns with certain team mixes or certain products or certain mindsets, so you know that this is not going anywhere, or you know for a fact that there's no big market for it, or you know there's a culture barrier to it. So you just try to weed out what you know it will not work. Other than that, you just, and I think you do that yourself as an investor. You just try to back up teams that you mostly believe in and know that they have good harmony, and you just get behind them, and you're mostly investing in their second or third iteration of their product. You're not really investing in what they have today. You just know that they had identified a good problem, and you bet that even if this problem changed slightly, or maybe they have a better understanding of this problem 1 or 2 years from now, you still believe in them to solve and to come up with something that they can grow with, right? The other part, which is the less tricky part, but it's yet a more challenging brain exercise, is to not get stuck on models or frameworks, or 5 steps to do so, or 10 steps to do that, or 5 things to watch out in doing so and so. Is to actually keep a very flexible mindset and keep learning as you go, and you try to potentially keep, if you can, whenever you come across a certain model or come across a certain idea or a certain concept, that you have to keep that in mind, just like someone that has a real holistic view, and you keep adding sort of lenses to the way you see things. And whenever you come across a company or a problem that you're trying to solve, or a company that you're trying to grow, you try to see whichever lens of those lenses would apply to this kind of situation, and then you apply the best one of them, and then there you go, you have this thing. And this is what I meant by I've accumulated certain lenses in this analogy throughout this career and throughout working with so many founders and startups. So I just, whenever I learn something from one of these guys, I try to propagate that across different problems, different companies, different situations. And that's the beauty of it. And the knowledge that you accumulate, or the knowledge that you come across, luckily you can recycle that and make it have more value, and create more value out of it, if you will.
No, that's awesome. So if I look at what you just shared, being able to create this more value, and I'm a big fan of the more value that you can create, not just from an investor, but from a startup, anything you're exchanging has to be done in value. What am I going to get out of this interaction? What is the value for me? What's the value for you? So as you're kind of working through this with founders, from your early onset working as a business analyst to today, has there been a change in that? Because you mentioned different models. So your first model that you built 10 years ago, and you learned, you reworked it, you learned, and now you're investing. So has that model changed now when you've experienced it for less on the corporate umbrella side, where you're doing it as a financial analyst, to now, here's my money, here's me investing? Did you change anything, and did you become more reserved and say, no, I need everything to be in this little refined box because this is the only space I have? Or to your point, were you very open-minded and said, you know what, founder first, this is how I'm going to invest. I've built up all of these number theories and projections on how I look at business, and now I'm going to implement it here. This is my time to do that. Is that kind of how you process it, or can you give us a little bit understanding of how you guys have worked through this?
100% the latter, 100% the latter, Jeff. This is what I've known. And if I've learned anything, is to from my experience in the corporate world, is to master the skill of unlearning things. And this has been amazing, because once you buy into the notion of accepting that whatever you've learned somewhere does not apply in all aspects of life or aspects of business, at least, you start accepting new things. You start accepting that you're wrong. You start accepting that there are more things to learn. So that is in itself beautiful. So you just throw away all of that and just know that you have the mental flexibility that to accept new ideas and to accept the limitations of what you actually know or what you actually have learned, and just to accept those new things and accept the fact that you just could learn new things, or maybe those founders would add a lot to your library of knowledge and information, and then you can make better decisions later on and assess things differently, and don't get stuck up on your existing learnings and models. Like, this is what we've been saying to founders all the time. We Yeah, they come in for us to help them and to like teach them stuff and teach them about the models that you're talking about. And the fact of the matter is that we are the ones that are being taught how to think and how to learn about new technologies and new models and new things that from their life experiences, because those are the guys that are on the ground, front facing customers, front facing clients, and we are the one with the theories that luckily we are ready to just give up on and learn new things from their feedback.
The reason why I really like what you just shared is because at the end of the day, we spend as investors all of our time trying to fit everybody into this stream of how we see life and businesses so that we can invest. Yet the founders are on the other side trying to get out of this stream and create a business that is more open-minded, DeFi, whatever it might be, blockchain, which isn't the way that most people have thought. And as an investor, you're not going to just say, I'm going to invest only in blockchain because I want to be at this forefront of tech, even if I don't understand it. I guess you can do that, but maybe it's easier to say, I'm going to invest in companies that work in manufacturing, have a potential of using strong innovation, which includes DeFi, blockchain, token-based, so that you can learn. But at the end of the day, the investor's learning just as much of this new crazy world of tech and innovation as the founder is trying to implement it.
Yeah, if not more.
So you kind of have to have this open-minded mindset, because you could end up getting yourself into trouble if you're trying to stick to these old formats and not looking at ways to open up the way you think about a problem or a solution. And the last thing as an investor you want to be doing is being a cookie cutter, as I would say in the past, an old cop show, which was, you don't want to be the Sergeant Chipowitz, because you're always the same character, same shirt, same tie, same badge, same time, great hour, that kind of thing, because you have to really expand yourself, learn from your founders, and keep opening up to bigger and better opportunities by diving deeper into these companies that are you're funding and that are just trying to change the world. So I want to touch on this one point you said, which is unlearning. You got to define that again for the audience, because I love that. I know we've seen this in the past through different types of pages and speakers and online content where people are saying, I'm unlearning something. What does that mean? And what does that mean to you?
Well, it means like you have to put the factor of, or the element of time into this equation. Like you learn things, you accumulate knowledge, and you amass that these learnings and like libraries, as I said. And these things applied for a certain time. These things, especially in business, right? These are best practices, and those best practices are by default obsolete by the time you're trying to learn them. And at the pace that we are learning right now, and we are developing right now, even with the all the enablement of information sharing, but you're still, by the time you are going to learn something, it's already it's back there. Like it has already been done and analyzed to the point that it's written, whether in a book or an article or a webinar or anything, but it's there. It's old news. All right. So the ability for you to learn to get certain key takeaways from this information is a certain talent. You just need to be very selective in what you take. And then when presented with new information, you can't just take whatever you have learned as something that's for granted. Like this is something that was right at a certain point in time, and now there's new information that is presented. You just need to accept and not get stuck up on like the fact that you have experience and you have you have seen this before somewhere or anything that this is in itself and yani very arrogant, or would be very arrogant of you just to think for just for you to have witnessed something or learned something that is it's the absolute truth. I don't think you can make room in your mind to accept new ideas if you're just going to hold up on new facts, sorry, old facts that you think are just absolute facts or truths. This is the ability to unlearn, just to make room for certain things to reoccupy the way you think and just accept new ideas. And sometimes, yeah, you need to give you an example of something like that, how challenging it is. Like sometimes at a point in time, we were hiring, and we were presented with two candidates, and I chose the one with less experience because, and my words back then was, no, I want the one with the empty cup, because I don't want to spend that much time, and I have that much time to make them unlearn this thing. So that's how bad it is. Like people with certain learnings or beliefs or fake knowledge or fake experience or obsolete experience, if you want, sometimes it's harder for them to just make room for these new ideas and concepts. And yeah, it's not something, it has to be something that is continuously happening. It's not the fact that you can do it once. If you can do it once, then you will survive a cycle. You will just survive a cycle of just unlearning certain things, learn new things, and then you're going to freeze that back, and you're going to continue with this new information that is going to be obsolete in a couple of days. But it has to be a trained skill that's always evolving. You always have to have the ability of learning and unlearning, and not just then keeping the things that would be timeless, or maybe just the way, or alter the way you think in a bit, or maybe just like an AI models just would add something to the way you take in this information, but not the information itself.
Brilliant. I love it. So I'm going to reiterate on this side too, because I think one piece that you add in there is you're always stating that you have to make room. So there's a lot of focus that has to go into this, but I think take it from the startup side, because I think this is very valuable to startups, is to what you're saying, is that as much as the investor is being open to new ideas on how you're building your company or other elements of the product, the idea, the solution, there's also the same mundane things on how you build a business and how you do other things that are associated with the business. But it's the idea sharing process that the investor and the founders are going through. How would you approach a startup that you're working with in trying to enable that startup founder, first-time founder, that's never really worked with an investor who's throwing out different ideas, different concepts to grow their business, to market, to operations, whatever that might be? How do you get them to feel more open about taking in all of these new or different ideas on how they can operate their business without having to do them all and by the book and following everything the investor says? Well, the investor told me to do this, so I better do this. It's not exactly working that way. You have to think for yourself, and you have to come up with a solid plan that supports all of these elements. But how do you get the founder to be more engaged and more open to all of these ideas that they're going to get thrown at every minute, second of the day when they're building their company? How do you educate them on how to balance through this? Because it's a wild west out there, and everybody's got ideas and everybody's got ways to tell you how to do something. But how do you get your founder to stay focused, but to believe in the fact that there are options and they have to explore things? How do you get them to do this, or at least understand it better, so they don't feel overwhelmed and they can continue to build and move their company forward?
Yeah, that's a very tough question to answer. I think short answer would be just make it seem like it's their idea. Like make it seem like it's something that they came up with. So just try to ask the right questions, like the amazing question that you had just popped at me. But yeah, just ask the right questions. Just let them come up with this conclusion. Just ask them about their customer preference. Ask them about maybe someone that built a similar product or built to a similar client profile or customer profile. Ask them ask them to research how those customers liked such product or such service. So let them come up with the conclusion. Let them come up with what you're trying. Maybe you don't know the answer too. Like, let them just figure out how to rethink this whole thing. Let them unlearn what they had built for from the beginning. So they mostly they set out to, or the founders that you want to invest in had set out to solve a certain problem. So just let them figure out, give them the right questions to figure out the right angles of this problem and get a clear understanding of their ideal customer preferences, and that would lead them to the way. You don't have to actually give them. I actually challenge any investor that they know the answers, that they know the right answers to these questions. That it's a discovery practice. Like, this is something that we are all learning this, and many of the things, and I'm sure you have seen this before, many of the things that you would advise certain startups to do or certain founders to do, you would see someone else doing the exact opposite of what you had said or what you had advised, and you see them breaking it big, right? So, and then you'd say, no, it's a different situation, it's a different case, it wouldn't apply in Canada, or it wouldn't apply in somewhere else. But yeah, you just have to admit that you're wrong. this is the fact of life.
I think we both must agree then that founders may have a stickiness to wanting to be the expert in their space, and sometimes become very tough-lipped on allowing somebody else to amplify or push their business forward without them coming up with the idea or coming up with that strategy. So I do agree there has to be a way to coach them into that direction, or to find the answers, or to find the solution to the problem themselves, so that they feel they're supporting it, because that is ultimately the best way for them to own it and not feel like they're being driven by somebody else, but they're driving it. So I think that's beautiful, well said. And then the other side was the discovery, which is, it takes time to come up with these solutions, to your point, and it's not going to happen right away. It's not something that you can just wave a magic wand and all of a sudden you have a solution for. So I think that coaching part, again, goes back to the investor coaching and being able to guide them in that direction, because every founder, even every investor, comes up with roadblocks, comes up with issues where they're unable to unlearn a process or unlearn something that's in their mind, a way a word is described, or a way a business functions, or way a problem that they're being faced with. And I think that that's where that discovery standpoint is. And it's not telling you something. I think most people, I'll say at a high percentage, 99% of people don't like being told, but 100% of people like being guided. And if you can guide them in the right direction by opening up all of these doors, then maybe that opportunity becomes a lot easier for them to discover. And I think there's a lot of problems out there that would get better innovation if they didn't feel that they were being directed into one way, and that they could open up and solve it the way they feel is best by diving into the problem. Is that a fair statement?
Very much so, yeah. Really, really made it a lot more clear than what I've said. But yeah, hitting the right spots.
Well, we learn from each other. That's the best part of this. So as these founders are doing this, this is exciting, because I think they start to really trust then that, one, they're smarter and they are equipped with the right tools, but they also have the right guidance from the investor. So do you think this is a great way to create a tie-in with your investor and startup relations, so that there becomes more trust and more dependability on each other moving forward in that relationship as you invest? And as you mentioned, you keep investing over time.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get your question.
As you're both working together, because you're working on this discovery, you as an investor are kind of opening the doors up to get them to understand that there's different ways to solve problems, different options, different scenarios, that this actually, once the founder comes up with an answer, it kind of builds a trust between the investor and the startup. So now the two of you are becoming more compatible in that relationship, which is being able to be leaned on. Because I think there's also then this context of things that we talked about around focus and helping them understand it's their idea, there's also this roadblock is that I'm the investor, I'm the startup. There are two different levels of operations. And I think there's a disconnect there. And somehow you got to bond and create a relationship. When you come in at a Series A and you invest in a company, it's very hard to make this connection. And just all of a sudden, you're best friends hanging out, solving problems, working on a company. You're very separated. So there's got to be a way that connects and bonds those two groups together. So some of this leading, driving can obviously help, but allowing them to come up with the solutions and the answers in this discovery phase and being able to create that value must start to create a good bond. So I'm assuming, based on the conversation, is this something that you see as a way to help your founders tie better into what you're doing so that you can become part of that strength bench that's moving them forward in the right direction?
Yeah, well, we are lucky to have this this relationship with, you could say, all our founders. And I think that has to do with the fact that we actually don't invest that late into their life cycle. So all the investments that we had made was pre-seed up to pre-series A. And that's when the founders are actually much more susceptible to feedback, to receiving more like guidance and advice from you. And this is where Falak is actually positioned, also not as as an investor, or just as an investor, but rather more than a hand holder into this ecosystem and just trying to avail certain resources for them and give them the right support, and actually trying to not just me, but the whole team acts like part of the founder's own team. And that's something that you would actually hear from most of our founders, that they consider us part of their team as well. So whenever they want someone to work with them on something that has to do with go-to-market, business development, even investment, whether investment readiness or access to certain investors, we have their back all the time. And to your point, yes, you need to create this trust, and you need to create this trust by working with them, trying it their way, and trying to think with them. Just give what they're saying a shot, and you need to also have this belief that those guys know what they're doing. Otherwise, just maybe you shouldn't invest with them from the beginning. So just believe in them, and this would be reciprocated when you give them this trust and belief. They will also buy into the fact that they have your buy-in into their ideas, and you would be coming from a place where you want to see this thing grow. So they trust your intentions and their instincts. There's only vested interest into their venture. It's nothing that would ever be a win-lose situation. So that's the whole thing. Yeah. I think I think that's the point. Just create this sort of bond, as you said, and everything happens naturally. They're on.
You're working with these teams, they kind of treat you like you're part of the team, which is huge. And then you guys are able to build that bond through ideation and build out and discovery. And I think it all comes down to everybody's unlearning what they've had in their back pocket. And now they're kind of moving forward. Everybody's on the same path. You believe in them. They start to feed back the problems and solutions they're trying to solve. You guys work collectively as a team to solve them and move forward. I think that's a great dynamic for any successful startup to have. So it's awesome what you guys are doing. I love it. We're now going to kind of transition into a more broader question, which is that you guys have invested in, I think, over 70 plus companies to date, which is huge. It's awesome. So taking that amazing feat and all of the things that you've been part of in this community over the years, I'd love if you could share just briefly a case study of a founder where she or he really defined what it takes to be an entrepreneur. We're always looking for that great heartfelt story that just blows your mind of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And perhaps you can share a story with us that really encapsulates what that energy is that an entrepreneur brings to the table.
Right. My go-to case for these kind of situations would be Andrew. And Andrew Saad is the founder of a company called Bypass. It's a bit confusing because their company is called Bypass. Their product is called Health Tag, and Andrew is trying to democratize and elevate the whole quality of the healthcare services that the common Egyptian would receive. Because I don't know, I'll give you a bit of context. Like we don't have like medical insurance penetration is in the single digit when it comes to on a population level, and yeah, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the whole medical ecosystem in Egypt, but that's yeah, it's pretty tough environment. So what Andrew set out to achieve is to give access to everyone through giving them access back to their information, their health information, through this health tag. A very simple solution to have their medical records available on this card, and while having their health tags with all their information, they get access to discounted healthcare services throughout the country. And to do that, they also have a face of their product that is tailored to the medical or health service providers as well. And Andrew comes from a suburban city or somewhere that is not Cairo or Alexandria or the big cities. It's called Monofea. And with little to no money, Andrew had managed to survive for a couple of years and then attract regional investors to come into his company. And just after a couple of years, as I said, with little to no money at all, to rise like a phoenix and just become one of the big players in the electronic health records business in Egypt. Someone that most big brands now rely on for their medical records. And I think yeah, he just inspires me. And with Andrew, the thing that I was telling you about really happened. The way you put this trust in someone and put this belief in someone and just work with them, hear them out, listen to what they have to say, even if you don't agree, but just trust that they know this business more than you do. You have to have this acceptance. You're just an investor. Maybe you have certain domain expertise, but you wouldn't understand everything that's happening within their business. They're the ones that building it. So yeah, what happened with Andrew was amazing. You just give them this trust, it reciprocates, you build more, you trust each other more, and just you keep feeding into this upward loop.
I love it. So moral of the story is, not only as a founder, you got to believe in yourself, put some hard work. It doesn't matter which city, town, or small place that you're from. Just keep driving forward, and eventually you'll find the right people that get behind you, that enjoy what you're doing and how you're building it, and give them the trust, give them the ears, and a lot of great things can come out of this. But perseverance sounds like it's key to all of this success that Andrew and you guys have had with Andrew.
Yep.
I love it. Perseverance is a big word, and it's certainly a strong need in all founders. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. We're going to dive now into our rapid fire questions. You ready?
Yep.
All right. You're coming in as the investor. We'll start with the investor side first. Pick one or the other. Here we go. From an investor, would you rather invest in a founder or co-founder?
What do you mean?
Would you invest in a founder or a co-founder? What's your preference? You want founders or co-founders?
Co-founders.
Okay. Unicorn or 4-year 10x exit?
4-year 10x.
Tech or CPG?
That's tough. All right, tech.
Tech. I love it. All right. NFTs or Web 3.0?
Web 3.
AI or blockchain?
AI.
First time founder or second, third time founder?
First time founder.
First money in or Series A?
First money in.
Angel or VC?
VC.
Board seat or observer?
Observer.
Safe or convertible note?
Safe.
Lead or follow?
Well, yeah, I don't lead for the in this fund, but yeah, I would love to lead.
Okay. Equity or interest payments?
Equity.
Favorite part of investing?
Learning.
Number of companies invested per year?
Ideally, or what?
Well, yeah, I guess in general, if you invest in 5 companies per year, but you're shooting for 10 next year, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, ideally 10.
Okay. Preferred terms? Any preferred terms outside of what we just shared?
No, nothing.
Okay. Verticals of focus?
Agriculture.
Okay. 2 qualities a startup needs in order to stand out to you.
All right. Team for sure. Solid team.
Okay.
I know if that qualifies as a quality, but timing.
Of course. Because you can invest in great things, but if they're 10 years ahead of their time, then they're not going to have a very good success story if they can't find enough capital to run 10 years.
Yeah, learned that the hard way.
Exactly. Perfect. All right, we're going to move to the personal questions.
Amazing.
All right, book or movie?
Sorry?
Book or movie?
Book or movie? Movie.
Superman.
Except if there's a book to the movie, then the book.
All right, fair enough. Superman or Batman?
Batman.
Restaurant or picnic?
Restaurant.
5 minutes with Bezos or Oprah?
Bezos.
Mountain or beach?
Beach.
Bike or run?
Bike. I hate running.
I'm actually going to go for a run after this. So but they both, I like bikes too. I do both. I'm a big bike fan. Big bike fan.
Yeah.
Big Mac or Chicken McNuggets?
No Big Mac.
Trophy or money?
Money.
Beer or wine?
Well, depends. All right. Beer.
Okay. Camera or mobile phone?
Phone. It has a camera anyway.
There you go. King or rich?
King.
Concert or amusement park?
Concert.
Fortune cookie or birthday cake?
Fortune cookie.
TED Talk or book reading?
TED Talk.
TikTok or Instagram?
TikTok.
Facebook or LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
Most famous person that pops in your mind?
Musk.
Favorite sports team?
Yeah. Any sport, right?
Any sport.
Barcelona.
Ooh, nice. I was there not too long ago. Favorite brand that pops in your mind?
Favorite brand. Apple.
I'm gonna say that right now about 70%, 60% of all people pick Apple. Favorite
that
book?
has to do with the fact that I'm sitting in front of one, so maybe
It could be. It could be. Yeah, they've done a great job on branding. They're very good at branding. I will say that. Your favorite book?
Favorite book. 48 Laws of Power.
48 Laws of Power. Done. This is where I get all my insights on books to read next. All right, favorite movie and what character would you play in the movie?
Top Gun Maverick.
Nice. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I hear it's good.
No, but that's since the first one.
Oh, okay. I heard the second one was really good.
The second one is phenomenal.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to watch it. All right. Favorite app you're using on your phone?
Favorite app. Notion.
Notion. I'm going to look that one up.
That it will change your life.
Is it a meditation app?
No, it's not. It's actually a productivity app or a collaboration tool for work. You can use it also for personal stuff if you want to like achieve certain things. So you just list it down and yeah, they have a bunch of cool tools and cool setups you can work with.
Okay, cool. I'll look into that one. All right, we're almost there. What is the meaning of success to you?
Why, I'm enjoying this. Do you have more?
What is the meaning of success to you?
Well, for me, I think to have built a certain way that you can put your name on, like something that someone to say how do you do things and start to think like you, and that would be perceived as the right thing to do it.
So taking the way that you've done things and that people can mimic that is obviously a form of flattery or a form of being able to accomplish something. So based on what you build, hopefully other people will see that, they like it, and they're going to want to replicate it because it's working and you're doing a great job.
Yes.
I love it. No, that's perfect. All right, last question. What is your superpower?
My superpower. I don't give up even if I do.
Never give up.
Mm.
I love it. Never give up. That's good. Even when you think you do, you've got one more kick.
Yeah. Or maybe you just try something else, but you don't just give up.
Well, I love that quote because I think that does obviously represents a lot of how you work with founders, how you've built, where you've come from, and all the great things that you've done. You're obviously great with people as well. And I'm going to say, Hazem, it's been a pleasure to get to learn more about yourself and to dive into all of the great things that you've done and where you've going and where you're going to get to. It was awesome. I appreciate everything you shared, lots of notes. And the way we like to kind of end our show is we like to give you the last word. So anything that you want to share to the investor community or to the startups, I turn it over to you. But again, thank you very much for all your time today. Super appreciated.
Jeff, I've enjoyed every bit of it. I'll have to give you that. Like this has been the best, like sort of experience that I've ever had. So yeah, really enjoyed it very much. Thank you for that. What I would like to say to everyone is to again, do not give up, even if it seems like every door is shut in your face. This is not the end. I know these are tough times, and everyone is telling you, and every memo is telling you not to be very optimistic about things and just be very careful. But what I want to tell you and leave you with that is that every other success story that is out there just defied all kinds of sense and defied all kinds of sensible situations. Like nothing just happened because it makes sense, or nothing happened or nothing succeeded because it was set out in the right conditions or the right factors around it. Like everything happened in complete defiance of all things possible. So just keep pushing and keep at it, guys. Do not give up.
Hazem, awesome. I totally agree with you. That's brilliant. Well said. And thank you again for all your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. All right. Good night.
Okay, Hazem was awesome. That was great. Just diving in and unpacking all of that, and a couple of points that I'll bring up, which were really focused on this unlearning part, unlearning the way we all think, the way we built things, the way we think everything works. And he brought up a good point. When you're a startup, you got to kind of unlearn the way you think a market works or the way a product works. You're going to be educating, but you're also going to be learning new things from your investors and the communities around you. And the same thing for investors. They have to really unlearn what they think is the best way to market or how something works. So that was great. And then his last point, which really kind of summed everything up too, is never give up. You know, that fifth gear that founders got to have in order to drive this business. When he thought he's given up, he had another gear the next day or the next moment, or maybe took a week off, whatever it is. But always make sure you understand your space and take the time to really dive into it. And, you know, when the pressure gets really tough and you got to take a moment, just know what value you bring to the game. And when you've got a lot of that, you know, there's ways to give up too, but there's also ways to persevere and go around and really crush it. So I think the takeaway today is unlearn, persevere, crush it, and make room, focus. Thank you for the insights. Really a great chat. So thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this conversation, please feel free to share it with your friends or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and or Stitcher. Your supports or comments are truly appreciated. You can also check us out at supportersfund.com, or for startup events, visit openpeoplenetwork.com. Thank you and have a fantastic day.